Picture this. You're in front of your latest prospect, closing the biggest deal of your life. Your pitch decks were perfect. Your scripts, flawless. And when the time came to answer the golden question of, are you ready to move forward? Nothing happened. For everyone who loves sales, this is their worst nightmare. But fear not, because in this podcast, we're unraveling the enigma behind those missed opportunities. From appointments that evaporate to presentations that felt like a Broadway show but ended in awkward silence, we're dissecting it all. Welcome to Love Your Sales.
This podcast is presented by GenHead. GenHead leverages AI so small and medium-sized businesses can find their ideal clients to make more sales. Other companies talk about AI, but we are using it every day to drive down marketing costs and increase revenue. Learn more at genhead.com. That's genhead.com.
Welcome to another episode of Love Your Sales. I am joined today by Brad Herda, the founder of Vision Forward Solutions, supporting blue-collar businesses to thrive in multi-generational workforces. Brad uses advanced skills of communication, accountability, and leadership to enable his clients to create a future that will allow them more time with family, develop their next generation of leaders, and have a high-valued business. By defining how you want to work in the future, looking at what is already working and identifying new ways to improve your life and business, Brad uses context to put the pieces of the puzzle together to see how you can take a chance at creating your new future. Brad, I am so excited to have you join me today.
I am just happy to be here, to be part of this this adventure that you are on now, and very happy for you taking on this the role that you're taking, because it's a spot that you excel and shine in. So thank you for even allowing me to be here.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words. I honestly, I'm really excited to talk to you because you do a lot of work with, I guess the DISC assessments that you look at with behavioral characteristics, and then really talking a great deal, because you have a podcast as well, but talking a great deal about the multi-generational communication. And that is something that I think plays a huge role in some of the new, younger, I should say, generations coming up in the sales roles and selling into certain industries. That can become a huge hurdle for some of the younger generation. So this is definitely, it can be. And so this is a topic that I'm really excited to kind of tackle with you.
I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, because the audience has the opportunity, I think, to learn something different. Sometimes we do a lot of these things naturally and we don't know what happens or why those things work the way they work. And if we can get into some of those details here to help them understand the why behind why it works with one person and not another, so they can change or adapt their style, they may get a better close rate. They might get more effective. They could end up with more dollars in their pocket from their commissions, etc. So I'm excited to support them.
So let's start off with, I guess, first, what is a DISC assessment for some of those individuals that may not know?
So DISC assessment is just a behavioral assessment. Sometimes people call it personality tests. Some people call them just, there's DISC, there's Myers-Briggs. There's literally hundreds of different ways to go out and do it. But essentially, we as humans communicate in very specific manners. DISC just happens to be one of the easier ones to understand, because there's only four quadrants. Your D, which is your high dominance, the guy that only cares about the facts and data. The cold-hearted MRFer that just give me the details. I don't care about anything else. Then we have the I, which is the influencer, which is everybody wants to be their friend. I want to be the life of the party. I'm gonna be the used car sales. No matter what I say, that person on the other end is gonna think it's all positive and rosy, and it's great. I find the high eyes to be somewhat annoying at times when I'm trying to sell or be sold to. Then you have your S's, which are the steady people, right? They care about the people, but they also care about making sure it's the right decision. They get very, very, very high anxiety. The fear of being wrong motivates them tremendously. They'd rather make sure they're right than to make a decision and be wrong. And then we have the high C's, which are the compliance people, which are, let's follow the process, let's go step by step. If you gave them the alphabet and put it into a circle, going from A to Z, they go A, B, C, D. If they want A, L, Q, P, W, R, that would drive them crazy. High I could give two shits about that, because they're going to go everywhere and it won't matter. So all of those things play a key role into understanding people's behaviors. And if you can understand them and pick them out, it works out tremendously. And we've been seeing them for decades. Every Disney movie, every sitcom, every drama has all these things baked into it. And that's why it engages us as we watch and participate and watch the movies.
I've never thought about it that way. And Seinfeld just jumped into my head.
Absolutely. 100%. Seinfeld is 100% four disc characters, all right there, all different things, right? Kramer's the high I, just woohoo, right. Charity, it's crazy, right?
Right. Absolutely. Like oh my gosh, how I've never really actually thought, and that's why it's so entertaining, because you see those different things represented and they come together and you're like, whoa, my God. And the different personalities mixed together is really what is the entertainment.
Correct. And you relate to one of those characters more so than the other. And one of them might be very grating. One of them might be just very annoying, right? Some of them's like, wow, I like this person a lot.
And which is really funny is that I know that I'm a high I.
Yes, you are.
So now I'm thinking, wow, is that what represents me? I do not slide into rooms with my hair sticking straight up, but
not always. Some days, maybe. Depends on what's going on with the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a person that, when I start speaking, I'm pretty much just spewing out random stuff on a regular basis. You're talking about the craziness that's happening in my life. But there are times that I also can slide into other roles where I kind of lean back on some of those other characteristics that can take control. So do you think that understanding where you fit can help a salesperson, or just in general help somebody in their job?
Yeah, it would. When I went through the training to go through that, I was very blessed to go through some very intense training with Bucyrus back in the day. And that allowed me to understand my kids better, allowed me to understand my family better, allowed me to understand some other things, as well as professionally be able to get through the manager that I didn't get along with, that I had to, grit my teeth every time I'd go in the office. But as I learned to change the behaviors or change my communication style to that individual, our relationship became better. Mm-hmm. But I needed to take that course because he wasn't going to take the first step to figure it out, because he was going to behave how they behave. And too often that's what society does. We are who we are. And as we've gotten more individualistic, we are this way and we will be this way. And that's what we're going to do, come hell or high water. And it's not going to matter. Okay, well, then if you're not going to adapt, you're going to miss out on almost 75% of the conversations for opportunity to create a better impact or a better, more meaningful relationship.
Very interesting. So understanding the different, the four core personalities, and obviously I'm going to guess that, these don't identify a person 100%. You're ranked at different levels, correct?
Yeah, we contain all of them, and at different points in time, different things will come forward. You're gonna, some life decisions in your high I, right? But some life decisions you're going to take and making the career path change that you made. You spent a lot of time, energy, and resources making sure it was the right change, bringing out all of your S in you, all your S goodness. To say, okay, great, because it was a high risk. There was a lot of risk, and you wanted to make sure it was right before you just jumped in. Whereas, what am I going to get at Starbucks today? You could pick something. Who cares, right? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's liquid. You're not going to spend the time and energy as much in that arena. So it just a lot of it just factors on what's going on. And often when we get to larger deals, or we get into that, I got to get this sale, I got to do this thing, and we come out of that place of scarcity and fear that we got to make it happen. We come back to our core value of whatever characteristic it might be, and we miss the opportunity from the person on the other side of the table. We miss listening to the cues. We miss listening to what they're truly asking you for, because
Mm-hmm.
you're there to respond instead of there to listen and learn. Because that stress and anxiety is just so high in your own head.
Mm-hmm.
And often it's our own head trash. It's not even the real thing that's going on. We've told ourselves a story because we've never even asked the question the first time.
Right. So now let's flip this around, because understanding yourself obviously is wildly important to your own success. But as a young salesperson, or any sales, let's not say any, let's first start off with any salesperson. You're walking into a room. You're not going to give them an assessment before you walk. Here, have this assessment before we have the sales meeting. That's not that's not a
Correct.
real thing. You can't do that. But having one, an understanding of yourself, and then two, understanding that there are different, like very different personalities that exist out there. How can that aid
So
in?
walking to the room, we get that whole first impression scenario, right? We get that 10-15 seconds.
Mhm.
Um, you walk in the room as the guest. Who's the person that got up to go greet you? Who's the person that made the first eye contact? Who's the person that was the loudest in the room? Might be the eye in the room and jocular. Who's the one that buried their head in their phone, could give two craps that you're actually in the room? Might be the S or the D, because they're wasting their time there. Who's going to ask you all the process questions? Hey, we're here today. What's the agenda look like?
Mhm.
Who's the one that has, their hair all disheveled versus, dressed to the nines in the room? Some of those are key characteristics or things that could be behaviors to outwardly identify what's going on as well. So you can walk into a room and kind of judge and figure it out by asking some very specific things or paying attention to very specific things. Who's the person that's just on the other side of the table, just says, hey, how's it going? Probably introverted, probably going to be on the C or S side of the DISC behavioral style. The person that gets up in the room, they walk all the way across the room, jumps over everybody, they come and say hello to you. Oh my God, I'm so grateful you're here. Probably a high I.
Interesting. And how does that play into the success of, hey, Brad, I'm Leanne Lovely. I'm coming here to talk to you about X, Y. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to sell you this pen,
Right.
the
And
pen thing.
so if you're going to sell me that pen and I'm a high C, you need to make sure that I'm aware of all the things that pens can, the warranty, how long a cartridge is going to last, how many signed contracts can I get out of that pen, how many times can I click that thing when I'm nervous, what are all those things there? It's going to be really important to me as the high C potentially. And then can I get the value out of that from the cost basis? That pen might cost me $50,000, but if I can get $5 million in return, why couldn't I do that? So that's some logic based activity.
Right.
The high S is going to want even more reassurance that it's the right pen, not, well, what about the other pen the other guy sells? How's that work compared to there? And they got to trust you that you're there to ensure that they're making the right decision versus you're just there to sell them a $50,000 pen. And that feel and that vibe, we all have had it. We've all walked into whether it's the appliance store or the Best Buy of, hey, can I help you? Who's all those commission type
Mm-hmm.
scenarios where people are there. You can feel when somebody's just there to sell you something to get a check versus really care about who you are and what you're trying to solve for your own problem. And that's the connection that we buy from people. At the end of the day, we buy on the emotion and we use rationalization to justify our decision. If I like you,
Right.
Leanne, I'm going to buy a $50,000 pen. And I think it's going to be the best pen ever. I'm going to rationalize that $50,000 pen in my head in some way, shape, or form through the budgets, through other things. But if
Right.
we have that connection, you've sold me the pen. I'm not. I mean, why would anybody buy a $50,000 pen? But it happens all the time.
I'd really like to see a $50,000 pen.
Oh, they're out there.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I mean, there's something for every rich person. The
Right.
but I mean, and that's wildly interesting. I mean, taking the being able to shift to meet the person at their level, meet the
Correct.
person where they are. But that takes a great deal of one self-awareness, because you need to be able to shift and move and be very fluid in the way that you're approaching people.
And be comfortable with it, and not have that uncomfortableness become such a hurdle for you to overcome, that when you're out at the table, you got sweat pouring down your face and palms are sweaty, and you got the nervous knee kick going on, or whatever it is. You have to get very comfortable being uncomfortable, adapting to others across the table. And silence is one of the most important things in a sales world.
Mm-hmm.
Having an high I or high D, be silent for 20 to 30 seconds waiting for a response. Oh my gosh, you're going to shit your pants.
I know. Oh, trust me, that was the hardest thing for me as a young salesperson coming in. Whenever there was silence in a room, I felt like I was responsible for filling that gap. You're like, oh, nobody's talking, so I'm supposed to figure out what I'm supposed to say next. But
Right.
sometimes that is the most important aspect of closing, especially in closing. That is the most, whoever talks first loses.
Typically. Right. And one of the great questions to get out of the way is, okay, the objection over price. And there's
Mm-hmm.
different schools of thought over that. Do you lead with your price? Do you lead? I mean, Mercedes is not apologetic in any way, shape, or form when they put up their, hey, here's your lease for $729 a month for 36 months on all their car ads.
Mm-hmm.
They're not apologizing for any of that. And most people are going, oh my God, that's ridiculous. Yep, that's what it is. And they don't care.
Right. For some people, that's a rent. Do I pay my
Right.
rent or half my mortgage payment?
Right. So they don't apologize at what their price is versus trying to bury it underneath and bury it underneath the lead and go, okay, great. Honda did that very much early on, that they led with the warranty side of it and not the price. And they were able to get the warranty and the price to coincide. And you knew you were going to go get warranty problems until they built up their brand and their own quality. And we were the guinea pigs to build up that organization, because
Right.
we took the price and the warranty and said, okay, great. And they fixed it and they had great customer service. And now they're dominant. I won't say dominating, but they've changed what their vehicles were from 25 years ago.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. Now, obviously, communication has drastically changed. I mean, well, it always has changed. It's always evolving. I shouldn't say it's changed. It's evolving constantly. I never imagined there would be a time where I'm sitting in my office, which, by the way, is in my home, and my husband is on the upper level and I'm texting him in the same house. But this
Right.
is a real thing. I mean, this happened. Communication is constantly evolving,
Right.
where sometimes I mean, I never imagined I would text my clients. I thought, oh, that's left for personal use, right? But as time has gone on, from the first time I had my own cell phone when I was 18 years old, we've gone from our, cell phones becoming our everything, texting and emailing. So communication is evolving on a regular, constant basis. And the younger generation coming in, communication has become drastically different. I
Oh,
mean,
way different.
correct. I mean, I'm in my 40s and I look back and I go, do these kids like know how to communicate? And I'm sure that my parents looked at me and goes, did my daughter know how to communicate? What are these words she's using? Right. So for those of you who are just listening, Brad right now is laughing at me, but um I get text messages from my, from some of these, my nanny, and I get these acronyms or these, I mean, I obviously I know what
Careful,
LOL means,
careful what you look
but
up. It's
right,
dangerous.
I know, I know, I God, I know. Careful what, and I get these, and I'm like, what does this mean?
Right.
I don't know. So obviously, with the younger generation coming in and moving into sales roles, um, it's difficult to always communicate at the same level as some of the owners of smaller businesses, some of the managers who are making the buying decisions.
Correct. So let's just get some clarity here first. So when we say younger generation, so Gen Z, which is the current, which will be the youngest generation in the workforce right now, they're 26 years old. Okay. So they're 26. So if they've left high school and went to the workforce, they've been in the workforce now for 8 years, almost a full decade. So some of that we got to get over on our own self, is that self-realization of, well, all those young kids, they just don't know what they're at. So I'm 57 years old, right? So I'm at the tail end of beginning of Gen X, tail end of Boomer, kind of stuck in the middle. Then we got the millennials and the Gen Zs, and then we got Gen Alpha behind that. And understanding that, Gen Z prefers communication digitally, prefers, because they are digital natives. They're not analog first, they're digital first, and they prefer that methodology. It's important to understand that if I'm going to go talk to a younger person that's in my BNI group or a networking event or whatever, I'm going to be better off to connect with them, to send them a text than to send them an email or make a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I, on the other hand, when I want to, hey, just call me, because usually I'll have 10 or 15 other questions behind it. And texting conversations drives me batshit crazy. That's just me. And that's them. And that's okay. But understanding those differences are also very important. I do a talk for multi-generational leadership. And one of the questions I ask people about when we get to that point, said, okay, you get a thumbs up emoji from your boss. What does that mean? Most people are like, oh, it means okay. Yeah, go ahead. No problem. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure they're just not tired of you being a pain in the ass and it's not an FU just to get you out of the way?
Right.
And the minds just go, poof, I never thought about it that way. Mm-hmm. And the communication styles allow for barriers to understanding context and understanding true meaning, because we take those things away. And when you have Supreme Courts and states indicating that a thumbs up emoji is a okay piece of a signed contract, of a true deal, we have Supreme Court in the United States that have upheld a thumbs up emoji to be an agreement to a contract that was never signed.
Seriously?
Seriously.
That puts a whole new perspective on when I give thumbs up, because sometimes I'm just like, yeah, okay, great. Like,
yeah, great. Fantastic.
Whatever.
Hey, do you agree to this deal? Yep. Okay. Thumbs up. Not yeah, send it to me later. There's been lots of legal battle stuff going over those communication preferences and how things get communicated and what is a contract and what is not a contract. So understanding those preferences might have some great unintended consequences for you, depending on how you're communicating across generations as well. Leanne's face just sitting right. Like, what? You are you trying to imagine your dog right now just looking at you going, huh?
Right. Okay, so there was actually a battle,
yep,
a contractual battle, and a thumbs up was basically considered a signature for a contract.
Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. It happened earlier in this year. It happened. Can the text message be a legally binding contract? So tail end of beginning of 22, texting a thumbs up emoji in response to a question costs a Saskatchewan judge. Here we go. And I can send you, I'll put the link here in the chat so you can put it into your show notes if you so desire. But yes, a Saskatchewan man uses a thumb up emoji, costs him $82,000.
Wow.
Please confirm Flax contract. Thumbs up. Question mark. Didn't confirm it. Did not confirm it. Just please confirm it. It was so yes.
Right. So that they took as a like a confirmation of, yes, I'm okay with it.
versus
And I,
yeah, I'll get back to you.
versus a, yeah, I'll get back to you. So obvious,
What?
right. Which, and again, I, I'm okay with if the communication needs to be in text message, if that is the preference of the person that I'm communicating with.
Mhm.
But now, in retrospect, I'm like, okay, I got to really be careful with what I text. And next time I'm going to text an emoji of a poop sign. Nope, hold on, poop, thumbs up. Like, I'll get back to you, or I don't. But that really puts into perspective the, the it
Yeah.
puts into perspective.
Yep.
I don't even know how to follow that.
It's what it means to somebody else, right? That thumbs up to a younger person might be great. I can just get to proceed, no big deal. To an
Correct.
older person, it might be, yeah, I'll get back to you. Fine. Yeah, sure. I got your text. Instead of just saying received,
Eh,
an auto response or whatever. Okay, make them go away so I don't get another text, whatever time of day it was. I just want you to go away. I just want you to know that I got it. And
Right.
how we communicate that to each other is different. I've got people that just get so angry at me when I don't respond to a text. Did you get my text? Well, yeah, I got it. What do you want me to do with it? You didn't ask me a question. You just gave me
Right.
information. What do you want me to do with the information? You didn't ask me anything for it. And I'm a high C person, so process rules. Okay, cool. You told me we're meeting at 5 o'clock today.
Right.
Okay,
And
well,
then there's
then I guess I'll meet you at 5 o'clock.
right.
Do I need to send you a thumbs up and okay? Hey, good job. What do I need to do? You told me we're meeting at 5 o'clock.
Recon for, account. Well, and then there's me too, where I have sent an email to my boss and then I'll hit send and literally run into his office and go, "Did you see the email?" And he'll go, "I'm not sitting here waiting for you to email me. So
That's your
when
high
did
I.
you?" That's the excitability, I'm not the only person in the room kind of thing, where sometimes I forget that because I'm the high I that's very excitable. Yes. And I have to check myself sometime. I have to literally go, I need to go and take a breath. And because, yes, I sometimes that gets away from me and I'm when I meet with a client, I let them speak first. I ask them a bunch of questions and get to know them before I allow my personality to get too overbearing, because I know my personality can be very overwhelming, especially to people who are introverts, who are that process person. They can literally go, "Whoa, I need to take a break from her." Like, I'm aware of that. My husband is a true, I would say he's an S or a C. I mean, very extremely processed, extremely, like, if you give him the alphabet and you don't give him A, B, C, D, I mean, he gets like, "I gotta stop. Come back to me in an hour."
Right.
But
But it's
but
important to understand that. And that's how, to create those relationships, to create that first impression, to be able to qualify. If I'm trying to sell to you as a high C, Lynn, you're high I, right? If I come into you and just come in hardcore, here's the facts, data, information on the product, whatever, I cannot make a tangible personal benefit of the product or the service or the
Mhm.
relationship with that, I have blown the opportunity to improve my relationship with you and to potentially impact your business in a positive way, because I have missed the opportunity and missed the full boat of creating that relationship with you, the decision maker.
And I had a salesperson call me, and he called me and he just started talking randomly about this and that and what was happening in his life. He's talking about his dog. And I'm like, "I love you." And he's like, "Okay." Just not even talking about his product. And I was like, "I'm going to buy from you."
Right. Because you've
Never to.
developed the opportunity to know what's going on. And it wasn't about it's about creating a relationship. And sometimes that's
Correct.
like we said earlier, we buy from the people we know, like, and trust, and you've got to
Correct.
be able to prospect those individuals. And just because you don't like me doesn't mean I'm not a prospect.
Right.
If I fit that persona of your ideal avatar for your product or service, and now you want to filter out based on whether I like somebody or not, your pool is going to get really small very quickly.
So how does, say, this 26-year-old coming in,
Mhm.
their preference is, one way. So
Their communication modalities are a certain way. Their individual characteristics could be something different. They could be a high D, high I, high S, whatever that might look like. Because we're all, at the end of the day, we're still all individuals, and generationally, we still have those characteristics. But I want to share some interesting data for. I belong to a home building trades foundation, and we did some work with the launch program here in town, doing some research for us. How do we can connect with people, with students, and that don't have any interest in the trades? And they did some research. In 1979, 64% of those eligible to work in high school had high school jobs. In 2022, that number is 15%. 15% of those eligible to work in high school now have a job during high school. So that other 85%, that when they get out of high school or they decide to go on to college, and if they do decide to go on to college, to have a meaningful job outside of college is almost like non-existent. So the first job coming out is the first job. And we've changed from an employer perspective. We have put the onus on that first employer to help that individual be successful in and support them to be successful in whatever industry they're chosen. And we don't take the time to do that because we've not realized that, because that's not where us, as myself from that age group, haven't come from that background or bringing up.
So that number went from what to what?
From 64% in 1979 to 15% in 2022.
Oh my gosh.
So when we get those conversations of, we don't understand why these kids can't work, well, because they haven't worked,
they haven't
not
worked.
worked, and they're not doing that. So when you say the 26-year-old who might be 4 years removed from college, who might have only been working, service industry, fast food, Domino's, Amazon, whatever, to live the lifestyle, and says, oh, okay, and we go to work for the insurance company to go sell things, or to be the Cutco knives, or pick whatever that is, where they take younger people in to go find what's going on. Having the process, the training, the communication, the support, the structure to define success for them along the way is really, really critical. And you'll find organizations that do a really great job with younger talent, because they've defined expectations, put things in place, set things in place, and move them through the system versus just a pass fail. If you're going to set up a pass fail for your salespeople coming out of school, you're going to be very disappointed.
Okay, so I find that I was not aware of that statistic. So, and I should be aware of that statistic.
Sorry. But see, we took over the show. We're going a different route. Sorry.
No. So this is wildly interesting, because obviously I worked. I mean, as soon as I was eligible to work, what is that? Back in my day,
15,
it was
14, 13,
14.
whatever.
It was 14. You had to apply for your work permit. Then you could work, and had to be minimal, could only work a certain amount of hours a week. Right. I'm going to assume that they still have some type of parameters on that.
Like 7 o'clock, they can only work till 7 o'clock if you're under 16 right now.
Right. And then, and you have to have a work permit, all that other stuff. And you can only work a certain amount of hours a week, because they still want you to focus on school. I worked the max hours that I could work. I worked in the weekends, but I would go to, work, blah, 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 blah. That was wildly important for me when I was in high school, because one, that was how I
party if you had no cash.
Exactly, because my parents didn't just hand out cash, and the money that I made when I worked, 50% of it had to go to my savings, and the other amount I could keep. And I was a saver. My friends used to always come to me and be like, "Do you have any money?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "How do you always have money?" And I'm like, "Because I always save, like the money I make." And
because I'm not buying cigarettes and beer. That's why.
Oh, well, And I was back, as soon as I hit like 16, I was, okay. We all had our, our person to go to and be like, can you go buy me some cigarettes and beer? I mean, I even attempted to, bring the note to the gas station and be like, my mom told me. Anyways, I was a little rebel. Um, but that was what you did when I was in high school. You got a job, and as soon as I was 18, I well, I went to the military when I was 17. I graduated early, went and worked, and then I never stopped working full
Right.
time. Like that was just what you did. And then I finished college full time while I was working full time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never stopped. I should be a millionaire. Why am I not? Just as much money went out the door as it came in the door, anyways. So the idea that these kids, but it's also the generation of the parents that, well, I had to work so hard. I don't want my kid to have to work
We are
again.
our
And
own
that's
problem. We've created our own problem
right. And
coming
it's
through
always,
that. And we're
it's
not recognizing that. So being able to take that 24, 25, 26-year-old person into a sales role to teach them those things, because at the end of the day, they went to school, they lived through COVID. Maybe they were in school during COVID and they didn't have, right, no interaction, no this, no that. And there's a lot of stress and anxiety there. Plus, think of all the cultural and social things that have happened over the last 10 years and how that's impacted them differently than maybe you or I, compared to Desert Storm or 9/11 or other things that have happened, or space shuttles. All those other things that impacted our lives, their lives have been impacted differently to create different social cues and different social norms and different social expectations. That doesn't change who they are from a human being, from a disc profile perspective. It just changes how they like to receive communication and how they like to be um, educated and nurtured and mentored and coached and going through that sales process. If I come in and say, hey kid, just tell me what the freaking number is, they're likely going to be, what do you mean? Just no, my process, because they've been, everything's been scheduled for them since they were age 5. How
mhm.
do I deal with these curveballs that come out of place? And some individuals are much better at that, others are not. So finding the right behavioral characteristics, I think, is important to put them in the right roles for success. And too often we just think people are interchangeable.
Right. Well, and the reason, so, and here's another, I wanted to go into sales when I was younger, but my dad was a sales manager, managed up to 60 agents at one time, down to, 45. It fluctuated. He was a real estate agent, ran an office, various different offices, promoted throughout the years, blah, blah, blah. And my dad, I talked to him about, I'd love to go into sales. And he looked at me and he goes, I love you, but I don't believe that you have enough life experience to be able to be good at it, to be great at it. Go get some work experience, some life experience to be able to, and he was not wrong at this time.
Mhm.
Again, my history, suffer with bipolar disorder. I would think I'm a high I. Go back to when I was in my 20s. I was high I with a side of crazy. Anyways, I didn't have the life experience nor the self discipline to be able to go into a room and listen to somebody, hear them, and then to be able to determine a solution for them in a proper strategic way, let alone be able to. Anyways,
Right. I
so
guess so. So Hank, can I interrupt?
yes.
So given that scenario, right? Dad saying, hey, there's not a life experience. Here's what's also happened, I think, culturally, that becomes a difference. If I take that same 23, 24, 25-year-old Leanne,
Mhm.
put her in a room with those same individuals today, and you're capturing all that information and listening and going through it and setting expectations of when I can get you the response versus feeling the need to have the answer for everything right now on the spot and those type of things, that level of expectation has changed in the business environment over the years as well, because we're
Mhm.
not expecting everybody to know it. Because at the end of the day, I can always grab my phone potentially and look something up, and it's not that big of a deal that I have to know everything. But what you do need to do is set your communication expectations for, Thank you, Mr. Smith. I do not know the answer to that. I will contact George, who's in San Francisco, later today when I leave. And is it okay if I get back to you tomorrow at 8 a.m.? Will that be satisfactory for you? Taking that approach without the work experience, without the life experience of opportunity, changes the sales functionality tremendously if you're willing to adapt to those things and not feel you have to do it all at one stop shop.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, the environment of how we sell, of even in those appointments, has drastically changed. But and I agree with that. But just being able to communicate clearly and being able to listen and being able to sit in those meetings, you still have to be able to have, that it's an art form. And again, I'm not trying to somebody who's interested in doing this, I'm not trying to make them go, oh, I can't do that. But you do have to have a certain amount of self-awareness and awareness of the room, because there have been times when I've been in the room sitting next to a colleague who is doing their thing and watched eyes start rolling back because they're just not aware of their surroundings. And you're going,
on page
oh God.
17, section 13.2.5.4, there happens to be a period out of location here, and we can fix that for you in that template if that's okay, Mr. Smith.
Right. Well, and I've seen demo. I used to sell SaaS solutions where we would do demos, and and it's like, set it up to what they want, not train them on the product.
Correct.
So anyways, we could continue to go on forever. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, and I want to give you, Brad, your opportunity to do your 30-second selfless or shameless pitch. You take the floor. Go ahead and do that, and we'll wrap up.
No worries. So Brad Herda, Vision Forward Business Solutions, and we support blue-collar businesses to hire anybody of any age to thrive in their business so that they have value at the end and something to sell. So many blue-collar guys have given so much to so many, they forget about themselves at the end, and people are usually their biggest deterrent to getting what they need for their business. And supporting them to understand that they can hire a 22-year-old and they can do it differently, and getting them out of their own way to build up that pipeline and build that pipeline for success is one of the biggest barriers they have to overcome to sell at high multiples at the end of the day.
Awesome. Brad, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been honestly an eye-opening conversation for me. I love it. I love learning new things. I love, it's why I do what I do. It's why I have these conversations with people, to learn myself and hope, and hopefully educate, those who are listening. So remember, if you like this show, share it, like it, follow us. And thank you everybody for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Leanne. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us for Love Your Sales. For more, connect with Leanne on LinkedIn, and be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear what you think. Looking for a way to take your sales process to the next level? Visit us at loveyoursales.com to find out more about how Leanne can take your organization to new revenue heights. And be sure to join us next time for more great ways to love your customers so they love your sales.